Hello, everyone. We'll just give it a couple more seconds before we kick off, just so everyone can get into the webinar. Hello, welcome along. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our East Lothian property market update. I am joined today by Diane from Simpson and Marwick, and she's our East Lothian expert. And I'm also joined by Ash from ESPC, who's going to give us our East Lothian property market update. So the way that the webinar will work today is we'll kick off with the update to give you an overview of how the market is looking with some stats that we've pulled, and then we will go to Diane, who will help us with our Q&A. So thank you in advance. For those of you who submitted questions, we will be going through those one by one with Diane. We do find that some questions have duplicated, so we've grouped some together, but if you feel that you've not had your question answered and you would like us to expand on something a little bit more, please just pop a question in the Q&A box at the bottom, and we'll do our very best to get round to them at the end of the webinar before we finish today. I will say before we kick off that we do have a survey that you guys will have once the webinar is closed, and we'll also send an email with the survey. So if you can fill that out afterwards, that'd be really helpful. And we'll also attach our recent property market update in the email that we'll send too, just so you can have all the information there. So don't worry about being overwhelmed with stats and figures. So I think it's time that we'll kick off and we'll go to Ash, who's going to give us our update.
Thank you so much, Karen. Hi, everyone. As Karen said, my name's Ash, and today I'm just going to talk you through some of the market stats that we've seen over the last quarter. So that's going to cover through from June to August, and that is across East Lothian. So as Karen mentioned, there's quite a few stats in here that you will find in the house price report as well on espc.com. So if it is a lot of things to take in, then don't worry, we will, as Karen mentioned, send it out to you as well. So today, we thought we'd just cover a few different points. So we're going to have a look at the volume of properties that are coming on in East Lothian. We're going to have a look at things like the time to sell, the percentage paid over home report valuation, and also how many properties are being sold in East Lothian. So as you know, East Lothian has been hugely popular, forever. It's in really high demand because of the easy commute into Edinburgh and into town. And you've got those beautiful coastlines and villages, and it's just the perfect place to buy a home. So we thought we'd give you some of the most recent figures for the East Lothian market. So in the past for East Lothian, we've always kind of seen demand outstrip supply over the last couple of years. But we can see really small signs over the last quarter that the market is starting to level out ever so slightly in certain areas. So when we have a look, first of all, of the properties that are actually coming onto the market, we'll do this in a year-by-year comparison. The properties came on were actually up by 15.8% year on year. We did witness quite a lot of the largest volumes in terms of areas for Musselburgh. So we've got quite a lot of volume coming on in Musselburgh, and also Haddington and Dunbar. Again, really lovely areas for families commuting, and it's a great distance, obviously, travelling back to Edinburgh. In terms of the sales volume, so when we have a look at sales volumes, and this is everything that's been sold through our agents that are going through ESPC, again, just to reiterate, the market is still really, really strong, and we know that we are still seeing really strong buyer demand, as I'm sure Diane will agree with me there. So we have seen that sales volumes have decreased by a really small percent of 4% year on year. So there's slightly less buyers within that quarter time frame compared to the same time frame last year. Again, that's just showing those little slight signs that it's kind of cooling off ever so slightly for those in demand areas. We've seen Musselburgh sales volumes had decreased by 6.3%, and North Berwick by 20%. But on the other hand, we did see places like Dunbar increase in terms of sales volume year on year. So how quickly are these properties selling when they come to market? We try and track that from when they first come on to when it goes under offer. So again, properties are always in very high demand and they are selling extremely, extremely quickly. So for that quarter of June to August, the average for all of the areas in East Lothian was sitting at 13 days to under offer, which is extremely, extremely quick. We can see that places like Musselburgh, again, 3-bedroom houses there seem to be in very high demand, and they are selling in 7 days, which is super quick. And we also have 2-bedroom flats in Musselburgh that are selling within 11 days. So everything that is coming on there is selling extremely fast. Again, Musselburgh, Haddington, Tranent, Preston Pans, the average for all of those areas are sitting at 12 days. So it just shows that when they're coming on, buyer demand is there, and people are also wanting to pay premiums above the home report valuation. So again, in terms of closing dates, it's quite an interesting one just to have a look at. Again, it just highlights buyer demand. We've had 44.4% of properties coming on in the last quarter in East Lothian that are going to a closing date. So sellers choose that they have enough interest, they want to go to closing. North Berwick, we had 54% of homes that came to the market went to a closing date as well. So how much are buyers paying over the home report valuation? So again, across the board in East Lothian, buyers are still paying those premiums to try and secure their next home. So as a whole, for all the areas, on average, we are sitting at 111.5%. So that's 11.5% over the home report valuation, which is actually up 2.3% year on year. When we have a breakdown and look at certain other areas, we can see in places like Preston Pans, the average is 112.3% above home report valuation. And that's followed by places like Haddington again, which is sitting at 111.8%. And that's actually up by 4.8% year on year. I think it's safe to say, Di, I think you'll agree with me that every area and every street and every home is completely different. So if you are a buyer potentially looking to buy somewhere in one of these areas, we would strongly suggest, speaking to Di at Simpson Marwick or one of our solicitor estate agents to try and get the best advice possible. And equally the same if you are looking to sell. It's worth getting someone to come out with that expert local knowledge who can really chat to you about the area that you're in and what you're looking for. But Di, does that all kind of ring true with what you're seeing from your side of things? Does that all sound?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. There's still, things have softened slightly, I would say. We still are generating closing dates. We've had 3 closing dates this week, which have been very competitive. But there are other properties that are coming on the market that are not going to closing, but they are still selling well. It's not, bargain basement. Things are still selling at or around the home report value for the majority of sales.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. And yeah, I guess if anyone is looking for that advice in terms of purchasing and selling, they can definitely come and have a chat with you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've got a great team in the office that are really knowledgeable, that can give advice on the process from a buying point of view to a selling point of view, and we do have good market share in the county, so we've got good knowledge of we can see what's going on a weekly basis, and things do change, as you're saying. This quarter's changed, and we see that happening on a weekly basis, different levels of activity generating through.
Definitely. And if there's any more information that anyone needs in terms of the stats, then just get in touch and we can definitely point you in Di's direction, or we can provide more at ESPC as well. But yeah, that's the brief market update. But I'll pass back to you, Kenan.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Ash. Thank you, Diane, for that commentary as well. So remember, we will be sending all the information out via email that Ash has just kindly shared with us. So no need, if you don't remember it, we do have a nice handy document to keep you all informed. So we'll move on to the Q&A now, and Diane's going to help me with this. So the first question I've got for Diane is, with properties selling fast, would it make sense to consider selling our property and renting so that we would be a cash buyer?
Yes, that's an easy one to answer, actually, because if people have sold they tend to be the person that somebody wants to sell their property to. So in a competitive situation, if you've already sold your property and you're even, not the top offer at a closing date, you may be the buyer that's accepted because you're proceedable and the seller is not having to take on somebody else's risk. So that would be, I would always say yes to that. If you can do that, that's a positive. And of course, the other positive of that is what you've sold your property for, so you know what you've got to spend, because sometimes you might get an extra 10,000 for your property, so you can push and go into a different price bracket for a different type of property, or you might get a bit less and you do it the other way, but you've got all the facts at your disposal, so you're making offers with all the facts that you have in front of you.
Brilliant, thank you. Our next question is, do you consider the current demand and price surge in East Lothian a bubble?
Well, East Lothian's always been popular, and as Ash was saying earlier, actually, it has got that lifestyle that people look for. There always was a bit of a lack of stock in East Lothian, and there's a lot of new builds happened, but surprisingly, we still do have a lack of stock. So I don't think there is a bubble, because there always seem to be more people wanting to live here than we have housing stock, because of, the easy access into Edinburgh, the great towns and villages with good amenities, and the wonderful coastline. So I think it will always be popular, and it has always been popular. We've had a very good couple of years, obviously, with amazing offers being received, but that's been the same throughout Edinburgh as well, on a whole.
Thank you. And do you predict a pullback once the current wave of working from home buyers have moved in?
Well, we're not seeing any evidence really of that yet. There are still people who are coming to East Lothian because they've got that kind of blended working pattern, so they don't have to be in the office 5 days a week. And based on what we're seeing, a lot of companies are going to carry on with that long term, and change the way they work. So I would suspect that people will be working in the office a couple of days a week, or 1 day a month. Some companies are. So we think that people will still want to come to East Lothian, even if they're living even if they're working in Edinburgh.
And where are the most affordable areas for first-time buyers in East Lothian?
So they're probably the areas that are a bit closer into Edinburgh, the likes of Prestonpans and Musselburgh and Tranent. Those kind of areas are historically more affordable for people. Although with all the new builds that have been happening throughout, there's a lot of new builds now in Dunbar and Haddington, and that opens up options for people because there's more housing stock, so there are more affordable options available. But generally, the likes of Musselburgh and Prestonpans and Tranent are your more affordable areas.
And which area has seen the biggest price increase in East Lothian, including achieving the highest home report value?
Well, this is quite interesting, actually, because going back to the previous question, the more affordable areas, interestingly, seem to be in the areas that have had the biggest increase. So, for example, Tranent had a 26% increase year on year on average selling price, and Musselburgh had 17% year on year. So those areas that are affordable and easily accessible into Edinburgh are doing very, very well, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And then we've got the last question here, but just before I ask it, I just would like to let everyone know if they do have any questions or want us to expand on anything, probably pop the question in now, just so we have time to get round to it. But the last question that we have here for now is, with the increase in interest rates, is now a good time to buy, or should we wait until things cool off?
Yeah, this is a tricky one, isn't it? Because we don't have a crystal ball. But I guess what I would say is the property market has historically risen and fallen over the years. And if you're buying a house, most people are buying a house as a sort of long-term investment, so the property price will increase and decrease throughout the time you own the property. So I guess it's unlikely interest rates are going to fall dramatically. They may increase. So if you can afford it, and you're seriously looking about buying something, I would probably say carry on looking, because I don't think interest rates are suddenly going to fall dramatically and you're going to get a better deal next year. They may well increase. And, you know, you might have thought, well, why didn't I buy last year? Because I could have secured into a better interest rate and it would have made the property more affordable for me. So it's a difficult one to answer because there probably isn't a right or a wrong answer. But if you're in it for the long term and you're looking to secure a house and you see your dream house next week, I would say carry on and see if you can get it.
Thank you. All right, so it looks like we've got a couple of questions in our Q&A box. So we'll do our best to answer these as much as possible, but there could be a chance that we might need some more stats. In that case, we can get back to you via email. So if there's anything else that you guys need, please just email myself at marketing@espc.com and I can send you over to either Diane or someone at ESPC to help you with that. So the first question, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, Diane, this might be a bit of a guesstimate, but like I said, we can send over more correct figures. But this viewer is asking, what is the average rents for Musselburgh and Preston Pans?
Now, rentals, we don't deal in rentals, actually, Simpson and Marwick.
Right.
We specialise in sales, so I can't help with that, I'm afraid.
Okay, no worries. So if you would just like to send us an email with that question, we can try and get some information on that together for you. And the other one I have here is, are there any areas where first-time home buyers can buy land plots for building, and are the costs to build a home high in the local area?
Well, to get a building plot is quite difficult, actually. East Lothian Council are very strict on protecting, you know, the beautiful area. So it's a difficult thing to be able to secure it, and mainly the large house developers get the plots. So I think that we occasionally get sort of garden plots, which we've sold over the years, but we probably would get maybe a couple of those a year at the most. And they're in people's gardens and we're selling those. So they are difficult to come by, I would say. And the costs at the moment would be quite pricey, I would imagine, because cost of materials is going up. Builders are in high demand, so you can often be waiting for a builder for quite a while. So that's not something that's readily accessible on a regular basis. But if the person who asked the question would like to contact me at Simpson and Marwick, I can certainly chat in a bit more detail about things that we have sold over the last few years that might be useful for them, and maybe give them some pointers, you know, to help them find the dream plot.
Brilliant. Yes, I've actually just made a note of that now. So I will include Diane's email when I'm sending you all an email as a follow-up after this webinar. So you have the contact information there should you want to follow up. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate you coming along today and asking us your questions. And of course, thank you to Diane and Ash for your time and sharing your expertise. Remember, there will be a survey once this webinar is finished that we'll send to you. So please, if you can, just take 50 seconds to fill it out and let us know your thoughts. Also, we do have a Midlothian property market update happening on the 12th of October, which might be interesting. Again, if you're buying, selling, or even considering the area, it will be more of the same format of this. So please do feel free to sign up. And we have a first-time buyer in-person event, the first of its kind in 2 years' time. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it, Ash? So we're really excited about that, and that is in the 27th of October in our Property Information Centre on George Street, and there'll be a lot of friendly and familiar faces there to say hi. So if you know anyone who's starting off their property journey or even just considering it, tell them to sign up for free, come along, and we'll see you there. So thank you again, everyone, and see you later.